be reviewing the movie Mr. Malcolm's List. It was really, really great. I really enjoyed this movie. I think pretty much in the audience, I was the only one that really did. I heard a woman like a few seats down from me just sighing a few times, like she was just bored, like this was like the worst thing ever. I really did enjoy it. Um, there were a couple things that I wouldn't have included. So the movie starred Frida Pinto, who I really didn't know who she was. I'm really good with like celebrities people don't really know about, but I've never really seen anything Frida's really been in, and if I have, it's like a cameo or something, just like one scene. I'm like, oh, she's pretty. Um, so this is like my first introduction to Frida Pinto. I really did enjoy her. It was amazing. She was a great lead. So the movie takes place around the 1800s, and it centers around Frida Pinto's character named Selena. I can't remember her last name. So Selena is a very well-educated woman. She doesn't really come from a super high family, she's not like a lady, or her father's not a lord. He's a clergyman. Um, I think her mother is actually his wife, I'm assuming. They didn't really do a great job of like showcasing that. At the beginning, they kind of mentioned one of those characters that's just like in and out for a second, who proposes to Frida, or to Selena. He just says, "Oh, your father has a lot of kids," but he doesn't say your mother and your father have a lot of children. So it's kind of like, does he just have a lot of kids? And it's a question of who they're with. But I think she's the oldest kid of any of theirs. We do meet her mom for a second. She's, I believe, an Irish woman. She did have a very thick accent. I believe it was Irish, because in the like opening credits they mentioned that, or it was one of those things that it was just like it was shot in Ireland, or some scenes were shot in Ireland. So it takes place. Selena is a very well educated woman. Her friend, who is also not a lady or anything like that, they mentioned that she doesn't know who her father is. But she does live with her mother. She is very wealthy, very, I wouldn't say well educated, probably just kind of like, she's just rich. That's kind of her only thing. She's rich and would be anyone's, a suitable heir or suitable bride for any man. So she gets kind of publicly embarrassed by Mr. Malcolm, who has a list of qualities he seeks in a wife, like politically inclined, kind, comes from the right family. Uh, so, but, sorry, Selena's friend, Julia, didn't meet those requirements, and she was publicly embarrassed. So she wrote to Selena, who lives in Sussex, not London, and says, "Why don't you come on over and we'll have some fun?" And she didn't mean like, "Oh, we'll just go shopping or we'll enjoy London." She meant, we're going to embarrass Malcolm because he embarrassed me. So she goes to London. She reunites with Julia, who she went to school with as a young girl. And she meets Julia's cousin, who found out about the list, because of course Mr. Malcolm's not going to publicize that he has a list of qualities he seeks in a wife, because then women would be faking themselves, coming up with different ways to just be like, "Oh, Mr. Malcolm likes to discuss politics and seeks a wife who should be able to discuss politics. So here's what I'm going to do. But in reality, Selena does meet all the requirements on Mr. Malcolm's list. But Julia's plan is to have Selena and Mr. Malcolm fall in love, and when he's about to propose or about to say I love you, she's going to say, you don't meet the requirements on my list for a suitable husband. Of course, that doesn't exactly go as planned. Julia is really driven by her anger, and it's kind of makes her a dislikable character. She's dislikable in a lot of ways. She doesn't really listen to other people. There's a scene where she's discussing her plan, or before she's discussing her plan with Selena, she and her cousin and Selena are having tea, and Selena's talking about her work in, I can't remember, I think it was like Bangladesh or something, and how enjoyable it was and how it was nice to meet all the natives and the locals and all that. And Julia's like, yeah, they are disgusting. Foreigners are the worst. And it's just like, really? You weren't listening to a word I said. But there are other moments like that where Julia kind of shoves her foot in her mouth and just says the wrong thing, but it's not like somebody's going to be like, Julia, that was incredibly offensive. They're just going to be like, you're the worst. So Julia is driven by her newfound hatred of Mr. Malcolm, because she did really like him and he did embarrass her, and it was all over the newspapers, which back then was just like, it's kind of like our social media, so once it's out there, there's no getting it back. So Selena is actually falling in love with Mr. Malcolm, regardless of the list, or his kind of arrogance, because he is very arrogant. I mean, he's a likable antagonist slash protagonist. He's kind of an anti-hero because of the way he uses his power as, again, he's not a lord. He is very wealthy, just like Julia is. He uses his wealth and his, his stature, I guess, in life as a way to kind of just make people feel little. And so that kind of makes him a dislikable character. But as Selena falls in love with him, so do we as an audience. It was really fun. So there was a little brief moment where there was a love triangle between Selena, Mr. Malcolm, and then Mr. Malcolm's friend, who Selena also knew through, some people she met, named Captain something. I can't remember, sorry. So there was a little mini love triangle. It was kind of resolved really quickly, which I was really happy with because it was even featured in the trailer. And when I saw it, I was just like, this is not necessary, and it makes me not want to watch it. I didn't really understand why there needed to be a little love triangle. It was pointless to me. And it's just like, if this is about getting revenge, I'll enjoy that. If this is about a love triangle, I'll enjoy that. But I don't want it to be meshed together. But again, it was fixed very quickly. So, or it was just like in a way where I kind of blinked and it was over. And I was like, great, perfect. And there was another scene that I didn't feel was extremely necessary. When they were training Selena to be this perfect person for the list, there was a little montage thing that I didn't feel was extremely necessary. I mean, it was little. It was, again, a blink and you'll miss it. Like, I could have gone to the bathroom and missed the whole thing. I didn't feel it was extremely necessary, but it was kind of cute. And it did show that Selena doesn't need to be taught about politics because she already knows that stuff. There was also another little scene with Julia kind of being, again, not perfect for Mr. Malcolm and not I don't know. It was just a little scene at the end of the montage where uh, Julia's cousin, whose name is escaping me, I think it's Cassie or something, uh, he is teaching or asking Selena if she knows about, I don't know, the corn walls or corn laws or something like that. I don't know. It was something where I didn't really understand. I only heard the word corn and something else. And yeah, but it's something back then that was like a big deal with Parliament or whatever. And he was asking Selena if she did know about it. And she's like, of course I do. I've read all about it. I've read the news and blah, blah, blah. And Julia walks in and is kind of like, she doesn't need to know that stuff. Men don't like it when women are intelligent, basically. And I was just like, ugh, you really kind of are the worst. And this was just a different time. But I did really enjoy this movie. So another quick thing I did not like. So at the end, of course, Malcolm and Selena get together. And Julia's okay with it because she realized she was kind of being a bitch. And everything is kind of working out. And Mr. Malcolm proposes to Selena, and she says yes. But then the credits came, and all that was there was... So in the movie, there were little, like... You know how we have, like, modern day political cartoons, like, mocking what's going on in the country? It was kind of like that. Like, that's how it was put in the newspapers about Julia's date with Mr. Malcolm not going well because they were at the opera and there was a caricature. That's what they kept calling it. Like, our modern day political cartoons mocking their date with Mr. Malcolm and Julia. And it just said in the caption, next, like he was done with her. So at the end of the movie, during the final credits, when all the stuff was coming up, it was just like cartoons of Mr. Malcolm and Selena getting engaged, Julia getting together with the captain guy, little stuff like that. But I was like, all I really wanted was a wedding scene. I love wedding scenes, and I didn't really like the animation thing. I was just like, I get it, that's what was going on back then, but I'm like, I don't really care about that stuff. I wanted a wedding, and it was gonna be amazing because Mr. Malcolm is extremely rich, and like they showed his house, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I don't know, I was just like, it's a rom-com. All I want is a wedding. And not like a cute little wedding between someone we don't really care about and somebody else we also don't care about. I wanted a wedding between Selena and Mr. Malcolm. That would have been beautiful. But that's all we got. And another quick thing, because I had to look it up when I left the theater. So when we first see adult Selena, I was like, is Frida Pinto pregnant in this? Because I could just kind of tell, with the dresses were kind of like, I don't know, it was only like the bottom after the boobs. After that, it was just flowy, and I could kind of tell, and I had to look it up, and so I found out that they began shooting in March 2021, or they began production then. But Frida Pinto gave birth in November of 2021. So she probably, depending on when they started shooting, she would have been a few months along. So I was just I had to look it up. I was just so curious because every time I saw her, I'm like, I see her belly and she's pregnant. It was just bothering me for some reason. I don't know. So that is it for this. The Rotten Tomatoes score, I believe, 79%. I think that's okay. When I first saw it, it was 80%, but then it went down to 79, which I was okay with. I do like it. Like I said, I think it is a B movie, but I was okay with that because I think 90 or 80 to 90 or whatever percent, even 70s are okay. it just means that like they did a really good job. And Rotten Tomatoes is not really the best judge of like this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, if you look up some of your favorite movies on Rotten Tomatoes, sometimes it's like 40%. Like, I don't know, what's some movies that I like are like Hocus Pocus. That's really low. Uh, Jennifer's Body is low. That should be changed. Same with Troop Beverly Hills. Like, that's a classic 80s movie that is so much fun because of Shelley Long, and that's really low. But like I said, I think they did score it pretty well. I'm waiting for like podcasts to review it, like NPR's Pop Culture Happy Hour. Not a lot of people are in my theater because a lot of them were seeing the Minions movie. So many people were, I could tell by their t-shirts. But I really liked this movie. I hope you all go out and see it. It's really cute. It's based off of a book. The crew, like directors, writers, all that, pretty much all women. So that was a cute plus. I should pay attention to that kind of stuff, but I didn't. But yeah, I hope you guys go out and see it. And the next movie I will be reviewing will be Thor: Love and Thunder. So I'll see you guys later. Bye!